Today on Roll for Crit, we're reviewing a game that truly is Unmatched. It's the Unmatched board game, a partnership between Restoration Games and Mondo that uses a variety of different characters from different universes, pits them against each other in either head-to-head two-player battles or team battles for 2v2. Now there are going to be multiple sets of this game released. A couple of those are already in existence, but today we are focusing on reviewing just the original core set, which is Battle of Legends Volume 1. It includes the 4 characters you see on the table right here. And the way the game works is pretty simple. You pick up one of these decks, you are in control of that character, and you need to try to get the other player's character to 0 life before they do the same to you.
That's right. This core set comes with 4 characters. You can see here King Arthur, Medusa, Sinbad, and Alice from Alice in Wonderland. Each of them also come with sidekicks. Most of these characters seem to come with 1 sidekick, which have their own life dial, while Medusa comes with 3 sidekicks, each with only 1 life, so they don't need a life dial. They die as soon as you hit them. So the way the game works is on your turn, you have 2 actions that you must take. Now you can spend these actions in one of the following ways. You can maneuver, which is simply drawing a card, and moving all your characters your base speed. You may attack. Pretty simple. Make sure if you're ranged, must be in the same zone. So in this case, Medusa, who is ranged, could attack King Arthur. If they're melee, they gotta get up close and personal. Finally, you can scheme. This is a lightning bolt card. It's sort of like an event card that you can play from your hand. Once you do the 2, it switches to your opponent's turn. If you're doing the team battle, you go back and forth. So if this was one team and this is the other, it'd go Medusa, Sinbad, Arthur, Alice, and continuing the process from there. Now the cards in your hands are really how you perform a lot of these actions. Moving doesn't cost anything. But if you boost, each card has a little number in that corner and you get to add that to your move value, which is really important. But you do have to discard it. And the only way you are drawing is through that maneuver, and you only draw 1 card turn. This isn't like Magic the Gathering or many other TCGs where you get a free draw every turn. You have a lot of different cards in hand. This is the scheming I mentioned before. You have cards just for defense, just for attack, and these purple ones. Another interesting thing is cards like here, like Regroup. This card is in almost all the decks, I'm pretty sure. While a couple cards, like let's say Medusa here, which is Gaze a Stone, or the Harpy card here, very specific to that deck. And not only that, if it says something like Medusa, you can only use Medusa with this card, or the Harpy for that. The same thing can go for the other ones, like King Arthur, obviously, he's the only one that can use Excalibur, not Merlin, because that's his sword.
Right.
So you will go back and forth until a hero's life is hit 0. Now, if you're in a team battle, let's say Medusa got knocked out, you can still fight with your sidekicks because King Arthur is still standing. But once an entire side's heroes are knocked out, game's over. Your sidekicks can't fight just for you.
When you are attacking someone, you will choose one of the cards from your hand and put them face down, and then your opponent has the option to play one of their cards as a defense card. Once they have done that, you both reveal, and then you will subtract their defense number from your attack number, and that's the amount of damage that they take. But there are going to be a whole bunch of different effects on these cards. Some of them will trigger during combat, some after combat, some before combat. They might change the values of those numbers. They might let you move your characters.
Some will actually look if you won or not, depending on if you took damage or were able to deal damage, which could change the effect or maybe let you draw more, deal more damage, something very interesting like that. So there's a whole bunch of back and forth there.
But that's pretty much it. The rules for this game are pretty simple. I think that in spite of that, there's a good amount of depth to it that mostly comes from, I guess I would say, the decisions that you're making. This is one of those games where a lot of the cards maybe have multiple options for you. Maybe you want to use one to get a little extra movement as a boost. Maybe you really want to save it for attacking later. Maybe it does both. Maybe either of your characters could use it, so you have to decide which one of them is going to use it and when. A lot of those things come into play. We also didn't say that this is based on an old Star Wars battle game from back in the day, which is no longer in print. That one was similar, but had, all Star Wars characters, and also movement worked pretty differently from what I understand, having not played it myself. This head-to-head 2-player game, there's a lot of hype on this game for me at least, being fans of Restoration games, as well as it's cool to see all these properties. How did it land for you in terms of, that balance of strategy, simplicity, anything else that you like?
I'm not the hugest fan of these head-to-head games where there's a figure moving around, so to speak. This does a weird balance of, because the other ones I can think of, I can't remember the name, but it's like full hex. It's not a few circles, like the entire board's in hex, so there's a lot of weird moving, and then it's like this attack hits in a triangle formation.
Or something like Summoner Wars or one
A
of
little
those
bit
kind
like
of
that.
games.
And then there's the opposite, like Exceed, which is more like Street Fighter and those fighting games where it's just a track you move back and forth in. This sort of like balance. This is still very simple.
And then there are
circle
just,
path.
of course, card games with no board and just straight up cards. Yeah.
I do like this one a little bit more, and I think partially it's just the quality. I mean, these minis look great. The art on these cards is just phenomenal. I mean, a good chunk of these you almost want just as posters. They honestly should go to Board Game Geek to make them because they're just beautiful.
I also think even just the layout of the cards is really smart. It's very clear how everything works. You understand once you know what your boost value is that's where you look. It even tells you in the corner how many copies of that card are in your deck, which is really nice.
Yeah, no, that really helps a lot, especially if you're new to it. This game still falls to a lot of those trappings that are for better or for worse. Each deck plays unique or somewhat unique, which is really nice. But if you don't really know how the deck's built and how it's supposed to work, whether you're fighting for or against it can really stink. For example, King Arthur only has one Excalibur, and he has another way to fetch it, but you really don't want to use the fetch card until you've actually gotten it. So knowing how that's supposed to work can really affect the game, while Medusa is all about making your opponent discard because she has a card that, if it goes through undefended, deals a lot more damage. So in our case, we didn't know about that, so when I played it against Jonathan, you were shocked that such a card existed.
Right. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like inherent to almost any of these games. The idea is definitely to play these and familiarize yourselves with the decks to really get the most out of it. Still, in spite of those like strategic, mishaps and mistakes that I made early on, I always enjoyed the fights that I had, even though most of these games I have lost. But I do think there's like just enough meat on the bone, but still very simple that you're moving and attacking. It does feel very different from a lot of other games, I think, because what you were talking about before with how limited your drawing abilities usually really are. You really have to be careful, because if you just go in all swing and attack, and if you like use up all your cards and you can't defend, that you're defenseless. You might lose very quickly. So there are issues like that you really have to take into account. It will definitely be interesting to see how they continue to iterate on this and evolve it, and how new characters work in the future. Because right now I don't know that each one has a special ability, which does make them feel pretty different. But I don't know that I feel like most of them kind of operate in kind of the same-ish way. I mean, or it's like very obvious, like this one's attack heavy, this one's defense heavy. I'm curious to see what more like unique things they do to it.
I definitely think you could do a lot more things too. In particular, for example, right now the real only ranged hero is Medusa. Merlin's sort of ranged, but he's a sidekick, so really the deck is, it's King Arthur. So it's trying to learn the balance between the two of them, and I would love to see them try to mess around with that a bit more, maybe. Yeah. And also the idea of these multiple sidekicks versus one, and we've already heard some of the expansions. You can get Robin Hood versus Bigfoot already, which we have played, but once again, we're going to just focus on the base. And some of the future ones, Jurassic Park, which, I'm already like, okay, I'm on board. Bruce Lee, and they just announced their other big box.
Oh, right. It's like Victorian, like Sherlock Holmes. Well, also there's the Buffy the Vampire Slayer coming too. So there's plenty that they're planning on putting out there.
So it seems like figure-wise, it just seems to be you're going to have a lot of fun, because this is like that Smash Bros. Where you get the chance to be like, oh man, I get to play Mario, or I get to play Link. You can just a lot of weird mashups together, and that's almost just part of the fun by itself.
Now our crits and misses for Unmatched. First up, crits. For a game with relatively simple rules, there's a good amount of strategic depth to be found while playing.
Even though on your turn, all you're really going to do is either move, scheme, or attack. The attacking combat and trying to know what's in your opponent's hand and whether it's the right time to defend or maybe use that feint card to cancel your opponent's attack really adds that extra complexity you want in a game like this.
Each character and their accompanying deck is unique, with different types or amounts of sidekicks with different health values and special abilities, so everyone that you play as is going to feel special to you.
This game comes with 4 characters from very popular stories, and I'm really excited to see them reach into that public domain area and pull out a lot more legends that are worthy to sit on the battlefield.
The quality in art and design of the cards and the minis is top-notch. Even for characters from many disparate universes, it brings them all together. It makes it look like a cohesive, beautiful, easy-to-read game.
Misses. Knowledge of the deck significantly changed gameplay. Some cards seem broken if you didn't know the decks could have them, while some people who've played beforehand will have a significant advantage. However, this miss can be counteracted by making sure all the players know how each deck is supposed to be played before starting the game.
Like most head-to-head games with a decent amount of depth, this one absolutely rewards experience.
I want to go a little bit about the expansions and our thoughts on that, but before we do, Jonathan, I want to know, and I'm sure other people will, who's your favorite character?
Who's my favorite character? I did really like playing as Sinbad. He has this cool mechanic where he can like move around a lot, gives him a lot of options, and his power builds up. And Alice was kind of cool too. I don't know that I really fully got the gist of when I should be small or big. That's her gimmick. But I kind of liked her. But right now, I think Sinbad is maybe my guy.
Sinbad
I also won
was,
with him.
Yeah, Sinbad was really cool because he pretty much gets powerful after you play cards. So in essence, he just gets stronger as the game goes on.
Right.
But for me, I gotta go with Medusa. She has that ranged main range, so she plays the way I want and sort of that's keeping a distance, at least out of these 4 characters. I definitely would love to play a bit more with Sinbad. And obviously, I'm sure if we played each of them like 10 more times each, we'd probably have a bit more of a grasp on them.
Definitely. Our opinions probably changed. We did, as we alluded to, play the Robin Hood versus Bigfoot expansion, which is out there. And we can give a little mini recommendation. Would you mini recommend that expansion?
I actually would recommend it because let's say you're a little bit unsure about this game and you knew you were only going to play the 2-player variant, not really the teams. That's just 2 heroes that you can play against each other. It actually even comes with a smaller board and the 2 heroes. So I think that's what's really nice about this too. They're all standalone that you can just pick up the sets that you want.
Yeah, it's definitely a good thing. I definitely recommend that one right now, but it definitely once more of these sets come out, you may just want to look at which characters you hear are the best or you think more would be more fun to play as. And like you said, I mean, I'm a big Buffy fan, a Jurassic Park fan. You definitely want to pick those up because that's going to be really cool to play as.
No, it's definitely exciting. And like I said, I really do hope they at least go board game, maybe take a piece from each deck as like a poster set because they are just
great. As with like Mondo does with all their posters and T-shirts and Restoration Games, all their games have been beautiful too. Just some great stuff here, and I hope that the game is successful because that's also a big part of whether or not we continue to see more sets. But
that's true.
For now, at least they've announced at least a few more into the future, so hopefully they keep going with it. Let us know in the comments if you've played Unmatched and particularly which characters you like or feel like maybe you don't like.
In addition, as you can probably tell from these characters as well as the other big set with Sherlock Holmes, there are a lot of the public domain characters, so who do you think should be in the game from the public domain? The copyright one, that's always fun to see who has the copyright, so who knows?
Unfortunately, I don't think they're going to get Star Wars back for this one. But,
yeah, I don't think Fantasy Flight is that
one can
sharing.
hope. You never know. Things can happen. Thanks for watching, guys. This was our review of Unmatched. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
This is Roll for Crit. We would love it if you liked and subscribed to this channel and supported us on Patreon as well.
If you choose to support us, turn to page 25.